Captain Alex Morgan had seen a lot in his years as an explorer. He had traveled to planets with skies that glowed like molten metal, oceans that burned with strange energy, and deserts that seemed alive. Yet nothing had prepared him for the planet before him now. The ship's scanners had barely detected it. A small, seemingly empty world, tucked at the edge of the star system. The surface was covered in a dense forest, but unlike any forest on Earth. The trees shimmered with silver bark, their leaves glowing faintly in shifting colors. Mist floated through the air, curling around the trunks like living ribbons. Alex stepped out of his shuttle, the hum of its engines fading behind him. His boots sank slightly into the soft, mossy ground. The air was breathable but felt different, warmer, almost humming against his skin. His suit's sensors adjusted, showing faint readings of energy pulses flowing through the atmosphere. "This is unusual," he muttered, scanning the horizon. The forest seemed endless, stretching farther than any eye could see. He checked his comms. "Morgan to base, I've landed." "Beginning surface survey," Static answered, then a distant voice. "Copy that, Morgan. Proceed with caution. Unknown biosigns detected." Alex shrugged. Unknown biosigns were nothing new. He had encountered species that could shift shapes, communicate telepathically, or even emit light as a warning. Still, something about this forest gave him pause. It wasn't dangerous, at least not in the traditional sense. It was aware. He walked cautiously, moving deeper into the forest. The glowing leaves above cast dancing lights on his suit. Strange plants swayed, though no wind moved them. Tiny creatures darted in and out of the shadows, some like insects, some like small mammals, but all glowing faintly. He tried to photograph them, but the images seemed distorted, as if the forest itself didn't want to be captured. Hours passed, and Alex felt a pull, a strange curiosity guiding him. Ahead, he noticed what appeared to be the ruins of an ancient city. Crumbling towers rose from the moss, carved with symbols that glimmered faintly. Some shapes looked like spirals, others like flowing lines that reminded him of water currents frozen in stone. "Structures are ancient, but energy readings are strong," he murmured, scanning the ruins. The devices in his hands hummed in response to an invisible force, as if the buildings themselves were alive. He stepped carefully into a courtyard. Suddenly, the forest fell silent. Even the glowing creatures seemed to vanish. Alex's heart rate increased. The silence was thick, heavy, almost pressing against his chest. Then he saw her. A figure moved gracefully among the ruins. She was tall, her skin pale with a subtle glow, marked with patterns that shifted like liquid light. Her eyes were large, luminous, and calm, yet held an intensity that made Alex feel exposed. She wore flowing garments that shimmered like the forest itself, and her movements were precise, almost floating. Alex froze, unsure whether to step forward or stay hidden. She spoke not with sound, but with a soft vibration that seemed to touch his mind directly. "Take it off," she whispered. Alex's breath caught. The command was simple, but the tone made it feel heavy, almost irresistible. His mind raced. Did she mean his suit helmet? His outer armor? Or something else entirely? What?" he said aloud, feeling foolish for speaking. The words barely left his mouth before her gaze locked onto him. It was not threatening, but firm and oddly persuasive. "Take it off," she repeated, a whisper that carried across his thoughts. The air around him seemed to pulse, syncing with the rhythm of her voice. He could feel a warmth radiating, subtle but compelling. Alex swallowed. Normally, he would never remove his helmet on an alien world without proper testing, but curiosity, and something deeper, an instinct he couldn't ignore, pushed him forward. Slowly, he unclasped the helmet and lifted it from his head. The forest air rushed over his face, carrying scents he couldn't identify, sweet and sharp, metallic yet alive. Almost immediately, he felt it. A current of energy flowed into him, light brushing against his nerves. Colors became sharper, sounds clearer. Even the faint pulse of the planet itself seemed to thrum in time with his heartbeat. He stumbled back slightly, overwhelmed. This is incredible," he whispered, his voice trembling. I can feel it, everything." The alien, Lyria, as he later learned her name, moved closer. She didn't speak aloud, but her presence conveyed understanding. "Do not fear it," she said softly, still in that mind-touching whisper. "You are safe. Only observe, only learn, Alex nodded, though he wasn't sure who he was reassuring, her or himself. He scanned the ruins again. Symbols glowed brighter now, pulsing gently as if welcoming him. The air was alive with whispers of energy, subtle but pervasive, like a song without sound. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt fluid. Alex explored the ruins under Lyria's watchful eye. Whenever he hesitated, she would whisper guidance. Step here. Touch this. Observe carefully. And he obeyed. Each time he did, he felt a strange transformation. It wasn't physical, at least not yet. It was deeper. His senses sharpened, his mind seemed to stretch. He could anticipate the subtle movements of the forest, the slight vibrations under his boots, even the flow of energy through the ruins. Yet with every enhancement, he felt something slipping. A memory of Earth, a face of a friend, a detail of a morning he had loved. Faint, fading. Focus, Lyria whispered when she sensed his hesitation. Her voice carried calm authority. Trust, observe, learn. Alex took a deep breath, forcing himself to trust her. He had faced alien creatures that could crush him in moments, storms that could tear apart his ship, even rogue AI with deadly precision. He could handle this, he could handle her, but he could feel the cost. Every command, every obedience carried a subtle price. A fragment of who he was became less certain, replaced with awareness of this world, its energy, and its strange laws. He couldn't stop now, not without losing the chance to understand, to learn what humans had never known. By the end of the day, Alex was exhausted, but exhilarated. He had walked through ruins that seemed to remember him, touched objects that hummed with unseen life, and most importantly, had gained Lyria's tentative trust. She stood silently, observing him as he finally paused to catch his breath. You obeyed, she said softly, almost as if stating a fact. Not all do. Alex wiped sweat from his brow. I didn't know what else to do. His voice sounded small, almost vulnerable, but she didn't seem to judge. You obeyed. You learned. You changed, she replied. The path forward is not simple, human. You will lose more than you expect, but you will gain more than you can imagine. Alex's mind raced. What did she mean? What was he going to lose? And more importantly, what was he going to gain? He had thought he was exploring a new world, but he was beginning to understand that the planet and Lyria were testing him in ways he had never imagined. As night fell, the forest glowed under twin moons, casting dancing shadows through the mist. Lyria turned and disappeared into the ruins, leaving Alex alone with his thoughts. He realized he couldn't leave, not yet. Something bound him here. Curiosity, instinct, perhaps destiny. He lay on the soft moss, staring at the glowing canopy above. He felt the pulse of the planet, subtle but insistent. And he understood one thing clearly. Obedience had opened a door, but he didn't yet know what awaited on the other side. Sleep came slowly, uneasy, but filled with anticipation. When morning arrived, the world was the same, yet subtly different. Colors were brighter, the air thicker with energy, and Lyria was waiting, calm and radiant as ever, ready to guide him further into a journey he could not yet comprehend, and a transformation he had only begun. Alex knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same. And the question that haunted him as he prepared for the day was simple, yet terrifying. How much of himself would he lose to understand this world? And how much could he afford to lose? Morning on the glowing forest came quietly, yet with an energy that seemed almost alive. Alex Morgan woke to the soft hum of the planet vibrating through the moss beneath him. The twin moons were still faint in the sky, casting a silver-blue light over the ruins. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, trying to shake off the lingering, dreamlike feeling that had accompanied him through the night. He remembered Lyria's words from yesterday. You will lose more than you expect, but you will gain more than you can imagine. The weight of her statement pressed on him, but curiosity outweighed any fear. He stood, feeling the subtle pulse of energy through his body, and noticed that he was already reacting differently to the forest. Sounds were sharper, colors more vibrant, and even the wind, or what he thought was wind, seemed to move in patterns he could almost predict. Lyria appeared before him, stepping out from behind a glowing tree. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone drew him closer. Today, she said softly, you will begin to understand the flow of this world. Not all humans can. Many fail because they cling to what they know. Alex nodded. I'm ready, he said, though he wasn't entirely sure what he meant. She gestured to a small platform of stone carved from the ruins. Strange symbols glimmered faintly across its surface. Place your hands here, she instructed. Hesitating only a moment, Alex obeyed. The moment his palms touched the stone, a gentle warmth spread through his arms, moving into his chest. His vision blurred, then sharpened as though a filter had been lifted. He gasped. Colors danced in patterns he had never seen before. The air shimmered with streams of energy, twisting like currents in a river. Every sound, even the faintest rustle of a leaf, carried meaning. Alex felt a surge of awareness as though the forest itself was communicating with him. Lyria watched quietly. Do not fear what you feel. Every sensation is part of you now. To survive here, to understand, you must accept it fully. Alex tried to focus. He had faced challenges before. Hostile planets, unpredictable storms, alien creatures, but nothing had prepared him for this. This world didn't just challenge his body or mind. It reached into him, reshaping how he thought, how he perceived, how he sensed. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time had become slippery, hard to measure. He moved across the platform, feeling the energy stream beneath his feet. He experimented, reaching out to touch glowing leaves, stones, even the ruins themselves. Each contact sent vibrations through him, some gentle, some jarring, but always teaching him something new about the world and his own limits. Then came the first sign of cost. Alex tried to recall a memory from Earth, a walk along a beach with a friend he had once trusted completely. He blinked, but the details were hazy, fading like smoke. He felt a pang of loss, an unfamiliar sadness. He shook his head, trying to force it back, but the memory remained distant, unreachable. Lyria noticed. She approached silently, her glow softening. You will forget some things, she said gently. It is the price of growth here. Do not fight it too strongly, or you will lose more than necessary. Let go what is no longer needed, and you will gain what is required. Alex swallowed hard. Required? For what? To understand this world, human. To survive here. To see beyond what your kind has ever known. Her eyes, glowing softly, seemed to look directly into him. He felt a strange combination of fear and trust. He did not want to lose his memories, his identity, yet he knew instinctively that resisting her guidance might be far worse. By midday, Alex had learned to move with the energy rather than against it. The forest no longer felt alien. He could anticipate the subtle sway of trees, detect the soft shimmer of hidden creatures, even feel when a stone path beneath him would shift or tilt. His senses were sharper than ever, his reflexes quicker. But each success came with a quiet toll. Another memory, another familiar thought from Earth slipping farther away. Lyria observed silently, intervening only when necessary. You are learning quickly, she noted. Few humans can adjust so fast. But learning is not enough. You must trust. Trust fully, or you cannot survive what is coming. Alex nodded, though uncertainty twisted in his chest. He had obeyed her instructions from the start, but now he realized that obedience alone would not be enough. Understanding required him to act, to anticipate, to sometimes challenge what he was taught, without disobeying. That afternoon, a sudden tremor shook the ruins. Stones fell, dust filled the air, and the glowing leaves quivered violently. From the shadows, a massive creature emerged. Its body seemed made of stone and light, a strange fusion that pulsed with energy. Its eyes glowed red, scanning Alex with intelligence rather than instinct. Alex froze. The creature advanced slowly, deliberately. His instinct screamed to run, but Lyria's presence beside him reminded him to remain calm. Trust, she whispered. Do not fear, human. Move with the energy. He inhaled deeply, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath his feet. The creature moved closer, but Alex reacted in ways he hadn't known were possible. He stepped lightly, anticipating its path, moving in rhythm with the energy flows around them. The creature paused, confused by his unfamiliar movements. Lyria extended a hand, touching his shoulder lightly. Energy surged through Alex, enhancing his perception. He moved with precision, dodging a heavy strike and guiding the creature away from a crumbling part of the ruins. It took effort, coordination, and instinct, yet he succeeded. The creature finally retreated, seemingly satisfied or at least no longer threatened. Alex collapsed onto the moss, chest heaving. I did it, he whispered, still in disbelief. Lyria's glow brightened slightly. You did. You learned. And you trusted. That is the difference. As he sat catching his breath, Alex realized something else. He couldn't remember certain small details from his past. Faces, conversations, even the taste of foods he once loved were becoming faint. A subtle grief touched him, but it was overshadowed by exhilaration. He had survived, adapted, and grown stronger. Night fell again, but this time it was different. The forest pulsed more strongly with life, the ruins glowing as though acknowledging Alex's success. He could feel the rhythm of the planet in his bones, hear the faint whispers of energy that had guided him all day. Lyria stood nearby, silent yet present, her gaze both watchful and approving. "You are changing," she said softly, "and that is necessary. But remember, human, this is only the beginning. Every choice, every obedience carries a price. Do not ignore it." Alex nodded. He understood the warning, though he could not yet fully grasp the depth of it. He had gained abilities, perception, and insight beyond what he thought possible. But he had also begun to lose fragments of himself. The balance was fragile, and he knew that the next steps would demand even more from him. As he lay on the glowing moss, staring up at the shifting sky, Alex made a quiet promise to himself. He would embrace the challenge, learn all he could, and survive. But he also vowed to hold on to his humanity, whatever the cost. He didn't yet know how difficult that would be. He didn't yet know how much he would have to obey, how much he would have to change, or how much he would lose. But one thing was clear: he could not turn back. Lyria and this world had already claimed a part of him, and he had taken the first step into something far greater than he had ever imagined. And somewhere deep inside, Alex felt a spark of hope. Perhaps obedience and trust were not just about losing himself. Perhaps they were also about discovering what he was truly capable of, and what it meant to be human in a universe that challenged everything he knew. The night deepened. The forest glowed softly, the ruins humming faintly, and Alex closed his eyes, ready for whatever the next day would bring. The next morning, the forest felt different to Alex. The glow of the leaves seemed brighter, and the energy in the air hummed louder, almost like a heartbeat. His body had adjusted to the planet's flow, but he could sense the subtle changes within himself. Movements felt sharper, thoughts clearer, but some memories from Earth were becoming faint. Faces, voices, even familiar smells had started to blur in his mind. Alex walked carefully along a winding path of glowing stones. Lyria followed silently, her presence comforting yet commanding. She had not given him direct instructions yet. Instead, she allowed him to move freely, testing whether he could navigate this world alone while still remaining connected to its energy. "You are learning faster than expected," Lyria said softly, her voice a gentle pulse in his mind. "But speed is not always advantage. Control is as important as instinct." Alex nodded. He had learned to follow instinct, but he knew now that instinct alone could not carry him through every challenge. He had to think, adapt, and sometimes resist impulses, even those the planet itself seemed to urge. As he moved deeper into the forest, he noticed a faint shimmer ahead. At first, he thought it was sunlight reflecting through the trees. But the shimmer moved, shifting like a mirage, and Alex realized it was something alive, something intelligent. He crouched, observing carefully. A small creature, unlike anything he had seen before, emerged. Its body glowed with soft golden light, and it seemed to have multiple limbs that flowed like ribbons. Its eyes were large and deep, holding a curious intelligence. It studied Alex as he studied it. "Do not fear it," Lyria whispered. "All life here is connected. Some will test you, others will teach. Observe carefully." Alex held still. The creature stepped closer, its movements cautious. He felt a subtle pull, an energy from it reaching into his awareness. He realized he could almost communicate, not with words but with intention, with focus. Slowly, he extended his hand, letting the energy flow between them. The creature paused, then touched its glowing tendrils to his palm. A warm sensation spread through him, sharp yet gentle, like a memory he could almost remember but not quite reach. Alex smiled faintly. I understand you," he said. Even speaking aloud felt strange, almost unnecessary but comforting. The creature backed away, leaving him with a sense of accomplishment. But as the forest returned to its usual quiet, Alex felt a strange emptiness inside. Another memory from Earth slipped through his grasp, a childhood game he had loved, now distant and blurred. He blinked, trying to hold on to it, but it was gone. Lyria placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "Each connection you make here comes with cost," she said. "It is the nature of this world. You gain understanding, but you lose fragments of what you once were. Do not resist it entirely, human. Embrace what you must and hold on to what defines you." Alex nodded, though the words offered little comfort. He had begun to see the truth. Obedience and adaptation brought power, but they also demanded sacrifice. The question was, how much could he afford to give? Later, as he explored a series of glowing arches within the ruins, a sudden tremor shook the ground. The energy around him shifted violently. Stones tumbled, dust filled the air, and from the shadows emerged a massive predator. Its body was built of stone and glowing veins of energy, and its eyes burned with red intensity. Alex froze. His instincts screamed to flee, but Lyria's presence beside him steadied him. "Move with the energy," she whispered. "Trust yourself. Trust this world." He inhaled deeply, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath his feet. The creature advanced with deliberate steps, each one making the ground vibrate slightly. Alex remembered the lessons from yesterday. Watch, anticipate, flow with the energy. He dodged a strike, feeling the rhythm of the predator's movements, and guided it away from a crumbling platform. But this time, the danger was more personal. The predator's gaze locked onto him, and Alex felt a rush of fear he had not experienced before. It was not just the physical threat. This was a test of control, of courage, of trust in himself. He could no longer rely solely on instinct or obedience. Alex focused. He extended his awareness, sensing the forest, the ruins, and the creature simultaneously. He noticed a pattern, a subtle pulse in the predator's movements, a rhythm he could predict. Carefully, he moved in time with it, guiding it toward an area where it could leave without harm. The creature paused, studied him, then turned and disappeared into the shadows. Alex collapsed onto the moss, breathing hard. I did it," he whispered. His body trembled from the exertion, and yet there was exhilaration too. He had survived, adapted, and acted independently, not just in obedience but with judgment. Lyria knelt beside him. "You acted well, human. You are learning not just to obey, but to understand. That is rare. Most humans fail this test because they cling too tightly to what they know or what they fear to lose." Alex rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of her words. He realized she was right. Every step, every choice, every obedience carried consequences, not only for his survival but for the essence of who he was. He had already begun losing pieces of his past. Could he survive and still remain himself? The rest of the day was quieter but no less intense. Alex moved through the forest and ruins with growing skill, sensing energy flows, avoiding natural hazards, and even communicating subtly with the native creatures. Yet he felt a constant tug, a reminder of what he had already lost. Memories, familiar feelings, even small comforts from Earth had begun to fade. By evening, Lyria led him to a small clearing. The trees formed a natural dome, their glowing leaves interlacing above. In the center, a pool of clear, luminous water reflected the twin moons. Alex knelt beside it, watching the ripples. The water seemed to shimmer with the same energy he had felt throughout the day. "You are ready," Lyria said, her voice gentle. "Tomorrow the test will become more challenging. You will face choices that demand not just obedience or trust, but courage, judgment, and sacrifice." Alex looked at her, understanding the gravity of her words. I will try," he said, though he knew it might not be enough. The planet, the forest, even Lyria herself demanded more than simple effort. They demanded growth, real, painful, transformative growth. Lyria's gaze softened. "Try, yes. But know this, your humanity is your strength. Do not let it fade entirely. Obedience teaches, but it cannot replace who you are. Remember that?" Alex nodded, staring into the pool. He saw his reflection, but it seemed different. Sharper, alert, aware, yet shadowed with traces of loss. He could feel the planet's energy flowing through him, merging with his own. He had gained much, awareness, skill, trust, but he had also begun to lose parts of himself that he valued deeply. As night fell, Alex lay on the soft moss beside the glowing pool. Lyria's presence remained nearby, a calm, steady force. He could feel the planet's heartbeat, a rhythmic pulse that seemed to echo his own. He thought of Earth, of friends, of moments now fading like distant stars. The loss stung, but it also pushed him forward. He realized the truth. He could not cling to the past. To survive, to grow, to understand this world, he had to embrace what came next, even if it meant surrendering fragments of what he once knew. And yet, deep inside, he vowed to retain the essence of himself, the courage, the curiosity, the humanity that had carried him across galaxies. Tomorrow's test awaited, and Alex knew it would challenge him further. Obedience alone would not be enough. He would need judgment, courage, and wisdom. He would face dangers more severe than creatures or collapsing ruins, and he would confront the ultimate question: how much could he lose and still remain human? The forest hummed softly, the ruins glowing faintly, and Alex closed his eyes. Sleep came slowly, but this time it was not fear that accompanied him. It was resolve. He was no longer just a human visitor. He was becoming part of something greater, something he could not yet fully understand. And he was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that obedience had opened doors, but his choices would determine what he would gain or lose on the other side. Morning came quietly, but the air carried an unusual intensity. Alex Morgan awoke with a sense of purpose and apprehension. Today, he knew, would mark the ultimate test of his time on the planet. He had gained awareness, strength, and trust from Lyria. He had survived dangers, learned to flow with the energy of the forest, and faced the cost of obedience. But nothing had prepared him for what awaited next. Lyria appeared at the edge of the glowing moss clearing, her eyes bright with calm authority. "Today, you will face a choice," she said softly, her voice resonating in his mind. "A choice that will define what you gain and what you lose. You must decide whether to embrace this world fully or return to your own. Each path comes with sacrifice." Alex took a deep breath. The forest hummed around him, alive with energy, its light dancing in patterns he could almost read. He realized how far he had come, how much he had learned, but also how much he had begun to forget. The faces of friends from Earth, the sound of familiar laughter, even the simplest comforts of home were now hazy memories. I understand," he said quietly. "I think." Lyria stepped closer. "Understanding is only part of it. Action matters more. You must choose, human, and your choice will test not only obedience but wisdom, courage, and the strength of your heart." She led him to the heart of the ruins, where a circular platform pulsed with golden light. Energy streams arced above it, forming patterns like a living web. "Step onto the platform," she instructed. "What you see here will guide your decision." Alex obeyed, placing both feet on the glowing stone. Immediately, visions surrounded him. He saw himself as he was on Earth, walking through familiar streets, speaking with friends, laughing freely. The memory was warm, comforting, a piece of his past, calling him home. But beside it, he saw another version of himself, enhanced, aware of the planet's energy, moving in harmony with Lyria and the forest, understanding things no human had ever known. The visions overlapped, creating a dazzling, almost overwhelming display. Alex's mind spun, torn between what he had been and what he could become. He felt the planet's energy pulsing through him, stronger than ever, urging him to embrace it fully. At the same time, the faint echoes of his past tugged at him, reminding him of all he could lose. "You see clearly now," Lyria said, her hand hovering near his shoulder. "This world can grant you power beyond your understanding, but it will not restore what you abandon. You must decide, human. What is more important? What you have left, or what you can gain?" Alex closed his eyes, trying to sort through the flood of thoughts. He remembered the small joys of Earth, the taste of coffee, the laughter of friends, the feel of a breeze on his face. But he also remembered the thrill of discovery, the rush of understanding the energy flows, the bond he had formed with Lyria, the creatures, the forest itself. His heart ached with the weight of choice. He realized obedience had brought him here, had opened the door, but it was not enough. Now, judgment, courage, and resolve would determine the outcome. Taking a deep breath, he reached within himself, drawing on everything he had learned. He felt the energy around him, not as a force to obey blindly, but as a partner to guide him. He remembered the creature from yesterday, the predator he had faced, the subtle patterns of the ruins, the trust Lyria had placed in him, and he made his decision. I want to understand, he said firmly. I want to stay, temporarily, but I will not forget who I am. Lyria's eyes brightened, and she smiled softly. Then you are ready for the final step. She gestured to the center of the platform, where a pool of liquid energy shimmered. Step into the energy. Allow it to merge with you. Do not resist what comes, but remember yourself in the process. Only then will you gain what this world can teach you. Alex stepped forward cautiously. The energy was warm, almost liquid, flowing around his feet and ankles. As it rose, enveloping him, he felt a surge of power unlike anything before. His senses expanded, colors and sounds blending into patterns of knowledge. He could perceive the forest's life, the ruins' history, even the faint whispers of distant stars, and yet he felt the tug of loss. Memories from Earth flickered like distant lanterns, some strong, some fading. Names, places, voices, all began to blend with the overwhelming awareness of this new world. He gritted his teeth, determined not to let go entirely. He focused on the essence of himself, the courage, curiosity, and heart that had carried him across the galaxy. The energy pulsed around him, responding, reshaping, amplifying, but not erasing. Slowly, a balance formed. He could feel the planet's power, but his identity remained intact. Lyria watched silently. You are rare, human. Most fail to maintain themselves. Most are consumed entirely, leaving only the vessel of adaptation. But you understand the balance. You have obeyed, learned, and chosen wisely. You are ready. Alex opened his eyes. The energy flowed around him, and yet he felt grounded. He was aware of the planet, its life, its rhythms, but also of himself. The forest hummed approval. Creatures emerged to observe, and the ruins glowed as though celebrating his success. Thank you, he whispered, though there was no one to thank but Lyria and perhaps the planet itself. She stepped closer, placing her hand lightly on his arm. Thank yourself, human. You have faced obedience, fear, and loss, and emerged whole. That is the greatest lesson of all. Alex took a deep breath, letting the sensations settle. He looked around at the ruins, the glowing trees, the creatures that had become familiar companions. He felt a deep connection, yet he knew he would leave this place one day. The planet had changed him, granted him insight, and pushed him to limits no human had faced before. But he remained Alex Morgan, explorer, human, and learner. The next hours passed in calm reflection. Lyria guided him through the final lessons, reading the subtle currents of energy, observing the creature's communication patterns, and understanding the ruins' history. Each lesson was a reminder that knowledge came with responsibility, and power required restraint. By nightfall, the forest had never seemed more alive. The twin moons reflected in the pool of energy, casting silver light over the ruins. Alex sat, beside it, feeling the rhythm of the planet, the pulse of life around him, and the calm of accomplishment within. Lyria joined him, her presence serene. You have done well, she said softly. You obeyed when needed, acted when required, and chose wisely when the time came. That is why you endure. That is why humans, though fragile, are remarkable. Alex smiled faintly. I think I understand now. Obedience is not about losing yourself. It's about learning what you can do and choosing how to grow. Lyria nodded. Exactly. You have gained much, human. And though some parts of your past are distant, you remain whole in what matters most. Courage, curiosity, and heart, they define you. Alex looked at the glowing forest, the ruins, and the flowing energy. He knew he would leave one day, return to the stars, and perhaps carry this knowledge to Earth. But for now, he was here, fully present, fully alive, and forever changed. As he lay on the moss that night, He felt gratitude for the lessons, the challenges, and the trust placed in him. He had obeyed, yes, but he had also learned, chosen, and preserved himself. The journey had cost him fragments of his past, but it had given him insight, strength, and understanding far beyond any he had imagined. And somewhere deep within, Alex felt a spark of hope, a reminder that humanity's greatest strength was not blind obedience, nor raw power, but the courage to face the unknown, the curiosity to learn, and the wisdom to choose one's path, even when the cost was high. The forest pulsed gently under the twin moons, the ruins glowed faintly, and Alex closed his eyes. Sleep came easily this time, not filled with fear or uncertainty, but with clarity and peace. He had faced obedience, loss, and transformation, and he had emerged stronger, wiser, and fully human. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps new worlds, and certainly new lessons. But Alex Morgan knew one truth: he could face anything, because he had learned what it truly meant to obey, to grow, and to remain himself in a universe far stranger and far more beautiful than he had ever imagined.